Welcome back, fellow armchair generals. This, of course, is Gamer 1745, and we're continuing our look at that set of words there. Look at Black Ice for Hearts of Iron for the current main release version. I know there's sort of test versions out there, and I'm still evaluating this mod if I really want to dig deep in and becoming a routine and good play, and learning how to play it well. Because it is getting into the realm of a total conversion of the base game, just sort of using the engine and whatnot. Little less maybe than that as a complete thing, but it's getting in there. So, still taking a look at that. Had a request, sorry, forget who, but hey, I remembered your request, to have a look at the casualties. Now, this was asked, we were much further back at time because I think like 3 or 4 episodes at that time I had made before, that I hadn't yet released when I was asked about wanting to do the casualties, and he was anticipating that the Allies were inflicting a lot more casualties on us than we were on them. Though, as allies here in this war, 1.8 million casualties for the Allies and 500,000 for Germany. So we're doing pretty well. Italian East Africa is sort of heading towards capitulation. Still not terribly sure if I like that mechanic. I sort of understand it, in that they're trying to make a somewhat self-sustaining, not needing to have supply lines back to Italy situation. But yeah, and we have that. We could call Bohemia. And hey, Starstreak, good to have you here, my friend. Please post to me if you know of a good reason to call in, like Bohemia, or Slovakia into the war, if something will benefit us. Where Bohemia really is just a puppet, as we can see here. They're just flipping us some industry. Slovakia is also a puppet. We can also see the Finnish-Soviet War and the Sino-Japanese War. What was I going to look at? Oh, let's go over to here. Oh, yeah, I know what I wanted to see here, because see, they're going through, they're doing the motorization scheme. Don't know if that's going to help. Oh, here. Research medium infantry trucks. Well, don't know that that really helps us at all. Trust the West. German appeasement. I guess this is the Czechoslovak Old Czech. Yeah, this has got to be the Czech tree. They went down balanced. Arms export. Just wondering to see if there's, for them, obviously they could. Nuclear weapons are secret weapons. That won't help. Czechoslovak Legion. Foreign expeditions, yeah. Because if they're not going to be a... Hey, Arno! A military power. So this is... Again, here, and I know a lot of you know this, because many of you have been around this long. I developed a mod, and it's a pretty deep mod for Black Ice Hearts of Iron 3. It was sort of based off of it, but it theoretically it would have to have a lot of work, but it would sort of work with anything. And hello, Arno, over on YouTube. So I am, I'm not like a game designer and designed a full proper game, but going in and significantly modding a game, not to the extent of Black Ice because it's built on top of it, but still a lot of modding. And so part of what I did there, and I did work with other people. I don't know whether I should say I or we, but is we're translating history and historical conditions. Hey, Ari, haven't seen you in a while during a live stream. That we're translating real historical events into a game. Okay, and nothing in the puzzle fits 100%. I'll totally agree to that. And this is one thing I'm struggling with over Bohemia and Moravia, Bohemian and Marin, or however the Germans would say that. Should they be a separate government? Well, if they should, well then definitely should have a separate government for um, uh, the general government here. So, because I would say that was even more of a puppet state. But in everything I look at, sure, there are a few protest situations there, and there is the Prague uprising. In 1945. Okay, so you get something. It's sort of like, hey, through much of World War II, nothing, just no resistance activity in Denmark, to the point that Occupy Denmark signs, and I don't know how much pressure versus how much they just wanted to do it for various reasons, either brownie points with their occupiers or actually felt this way, but they joined the anti-Comintern Pact, or the re-up of the anti-Comintern Pact, because it's sort of broken. Wasn't I here last week? Maybe, Ari. Maybe I forget things. Could be. I'm just not used to you seeing being live. Especially, I'm thinking, of course, Sundays, which play more War Thunder or something. But Germany breaks the anti-Comintern Pact when signing the Ribbentrop-Molotov Pact. They re-up the anti-Comintern Pact. Turkey signs on but doesn't join the war. Denmark actually does join the war and does sort of send a volunteer military unit, which really sort of displeases the way it's treated Denmark, because it's actually just sort of taken in and made a part of the Waffen SS. So the very early volunteers think they're going to be wearing Danish uniforms, going off to fight the Bolsheviks as, a small volunteer corps, sure, but that's what they think they're going to do. They end up being put into the Waffen SS. So early guys, yeah, you can call them collaborators because, yes, they were collaborating, but they were more anti-Bolshevik. The later guys, they were more we know we're joining the Waffen SS or whatever and doing that. But there is basically no active resistance movements, doing active events in Denmark until the rising at the very end. And yes, at that rising, it's a post D-Day. I'm not sure when by date, but you see photos of them carrying a lot of Sten guns. So there had been, prior to that, British, presumably, or American, efforts to help organize up and supply resistance, but they're doing it all very quietly. And I guess the other thing is okay, and I'm keep having, how far back do I step on some of these things? Again, Germany, the Nazis, the National Socialists, have their worldview, and Of course, certain groups they just want to crush. We can say Jews. Okay, right. Other groups, middle of the road Germans, if they start to lose them, they start to lose their, support, they back off. Okay, so they don't crush. They're not gonna. There is no incidence of them coming in and crushing a large crowd of what they consider middle of the road Germans. And this is very interesting. What it area? Yeah, I try my best to make it, but thinking about my absence for a few weeks at this point. Yeah, I know you probably have things to do. I'm not offended or anything. Just hope you show up more. Um, so if you're an Eastern European, you're going to feel the German boot on your neck or just literally crushing your head. If you're a Northern European, so long as you're not shooting at them, they're going to treat you very, very nice. So in Norway, there is an active resistance, so they are, having to deal with that. Denmark, there's no active resistance. It is very, very much, yes, an iron hand in a velvet glove, but it's just a velvet glove, and it's not strict, squeezing you because there's no need to. Everyone is complying, even while they're organizing up a resistance. And we can see this, that I forget who, but there's he's probably worth remembering, some officer in the SS, not the Waffen SS, in the SS, who's part of the occupation force in Denmark. He, I don't want to say let slip like accident. No, he informs somebody who he knows who can take some action about it, just before the decision is made to round up the Danish Jews, because you have to, this is turning into the Norwegians. I don't think are here, so we can say that why the Danes, get you did World War II right in so many ways, Denmark. When they enforce the Jews have to wear a yellow star when that comes out. Well, roughly every day, I don't know if literally every day, but like a few days a week or whatever, the King of Denmark rides his horse around Copenhagen City, without significant escort, as sort of a continuing sign of support for the Danish people, and he's still doing this stuff. Well, he comes out when that order comes into effect wearing a yellow star. Many other people the next day come out wearing yellow stars. So the idea that you can like single out the Jews of Denmark by their yellow stars, since huge amounts of the population are wearing yellow stars, does Denmark good. What 12 months? Oh, what is somebody died? But there's oh, am I missing something? Focus is doing. Oh, dogs. Okay, sorry. Yeah, no, dogs are. Yeah, I'm sorry, Ari, but for a moment I was thinking people. I'm presuming if I'm getting that right, that's a bit, but I've noticed that over in my life, when it comes to dogs, when one dies within the family, it typically, at least in my experience, means a lot more passing on. Yeah, I'm sorry to hear that. Yeah, I know it's a significant thing. I'm not a dog owner, but I don't want to be lied to it for a second there. I was thinking, reading that, and going, people dying, which to me is a much greater magnitude of sorrow. Um, but getting back to World War II and sorrow and So, and the Germans very much back off on the Jewish thing in Denmark because of it. Well, like I say, one of the SS guys lets the Danes know that just prior to the going to round up the Jews, they let the Danes know, and what happens? All the Jews disappear. Well, most of them, not all of them. A few are found dead because they realize what's going on. They're old and they just decide to take their life. But that's a very few. 90 plus percent, near 99% of them, all get taken to Sweden in like 48 hours from everywhere in Denmark. All the Jews disappear into Sweden. The Danes just disappear them across there. I'm pretty sure it's less than 300. I think it's around like 120 Jews are picked up by the SS. The Danish government expresses great concern over their citizens being arrested. So all of the Jews are taken to a particular, and I don't know which camp, to a particular SS camp, concentration camp. And they're all kept there. Well, every single day, the Danish ambassador to Germany shows up at that camp and says, hi to each one of the Danish Jews in the camp. And none of them go off to, the death camp or to death. A few, older people or whatever do die. I'm not saying it's a picnic, but we can probably put those down to natural causes, and they're all basically fine until the Western Allies, I think it's the Western Allies, liberate them. So because now, yes, if these were Ukraine, we've seen that they do the Nazis do mass executions in Ukraine. We're not saying the Nazis are the good people, and we're not saying that this would have worked for all nations. Like I say, Nazis have this weird hierarchies and the way they do that. But Denmark basically saves virtually all of their Jews through their collaboration. So obviously they're organizing up. So obviously there's a whether you want to call it a resistance or a because there is still continuing state government functions, I should say, continuing to function, obviously. But there is a shadow government, a shadow organization continuing to operate outside of the observation. The postman is presumably being observed by, I know the Aries saying stuff, but it is being observed by the Nazi government, and the Nazi government is opening any letters they want to open and read, because they're doing that in Germany, they're doing that everywhere. So I presume it's going on in Denmark. But if you need to have communication around without the Nazis knowing about it, the Danes are setting that up. So when I say they're organizing for resistance, but they are not carrying out resistance action, so the Germans don't crack down on them. So, but like I say, they voluntarily, and I think it is mostly voluntarily, join in, the anti-Bolshevik movement. Now, the bulk of the Danish army is just sort of disarmed, but stays. It's not unlike like in France or the Netherlands, since it really, I mean, there's brief moments of resistance. There's no real fighting in Denmark of any amount. It stays in barracks. They continue to wear their uniforms. They are generally disarmed, but they are not interred. They are not turned into prisoners of war. There is in essence more like an armistice, meaning a stop fighting situation than an occupation. So back again to here, The general government, there are no Poles are allowed to join any armed collaborationist activities. I think that is pretty clear to say. I even I even think basically civil police goes away. Now there are people from the former Polish territory, often called Galatians, because this is Galatia over here, um, that are raised for Waffen SS units. Whether you want to consider them ethnically Poles or ethnically Ukrainians, that's sort of what, because some of this territory here, whatever you want to consider these ethnicities of some of these people. So there are definitely people, and then those that are considered German from the former Polish territories are definitely, those guys are drafted into the army. So, and again, like I said, there is a choosing time in Bohemia and Moravia when you get your new ID cards. Are you German or are you Czech? You have to be able to speak a little bit of German, but most, or huge percentages, I'm not saying most, but huge percentages of people here speak some German. Just because, remember, Austro-Hungarian Empire, the two, because it sort of split up over time. And yes, earlier on it was more French was the actual ruling elite language, but it switches over to being German in the Austrian part and Hungarian in the other. So there's a lot of people that speak some German. If you can splatter out some German and go, yeah, my grandfather, but no, I don't speak it well now. But and if you choose to be German, you're German. It's sort of a self-identity thing. And then, but then if you're a male, you're then subject to the duties of a German citizen. So you may be drafted, or whatever. So I think the best solution is just to turn this over to Germany, but go in and have an event that just radically reduces the recruitable population, because we do not see Czechs as another group that does not really have an identifiable collaborationist military force. So, and again, until that last uprising, in the latter days of it, with the Germans put down, um, the Prague uprising, you do not have or significant active resistance. You have the what is it, two guys that are parachuted in that kill Reinhard Heydrich, and then they go off and sort of they figure out that they had help in some little town, and then they go in and kill the town and raze it to the ground. And I believe that town is still left as ruins to what the Germans did. So I know this isn't playing the game. Sorry, guys. Hope it's interesting. Um, so I really think this is better that it would just be integrated into Germany and not for war game purposes kept as some sort of separate puppet state. But again, I don't know if there's a good reason to bring them into the war. Now, Slovakia, it had multiple divisions. The Germans thought they were going to be able to use them quite well, but they turned out not very good because of Czech. I don't know if racism is the right term. Czech, prejudices. The overwhelming majority of the officer corps of the Czechoslovakian army is Czech. Not, and we can see maybe why you could say why it isn't Sudeten Germans, but Slovaks, no. They're drafted into the army like everybody else, but they are not part of it. Oh, and it's also, and I say overwhelming, I think it's like 80-90% of the officer corps is Czech. And 70% or more of the NCO corps is Czech, not Slovak. So the Germans really, I think, eventually figure out that the Slovaks, they just have a leadership problem. They don't have sort of the depth of the military institutions that Czechoslovakia, because they take over the Czechoslovakia and see how well everything is organized up, and it is quite well organized up. So, hello, amazing. How you doing? Hope amazing. Do you love resistance in Czechoslovakia as much as I do? Well, I don't know how to take that. But yeah. So yeah. So Czechoslovakia provides several divisions for the Eastern Front, including one is sort of a fast division. We can see it, I guess, as armored cars. It's about appropriate. I don't know how much horse use, but it's sort of like it has some tanks, has some armored cars. It's not really an armored division. It's more like a division that has some armor in it that is mostly motorized. I would say it's sort of a motorized division or whatever. But yeah, doesn't necessarily, they don't do well overall in the army in the war on the East, even for their size. So I don't know of a good reason to bring them into Czechoslovakia, bringing them into the war. I don't know if somebody can tell me a good one in game terms. Please let me know. Okay, well, on that note, I think we're going to keep this as a special episode here, since it's just me talking. We're going to, of course, continue the live stream that's basically just started. Hello, just a random, random YouTube Shorts channel. Hi, interesting channel name there. Okay. Hello, Heydrich, the man with the Iron Heart, gotten in the Czech lands after almost single-handedly destroying the entire resistance network there. Yeah, I don't know that he. I don't know how correct that is, Ari, and I'm not saying you're wrong because I don't know that he destroyed because there's the uprising later on. Well, I guess before we quit this special episode and looking at Czechoslovakia, at roughly this time, roughly, when okay, Germany has a rather popular foreign minister in Konstantin von Rath. He is not a Nazi party member. You should just build forts along the Rhine, Danube, and other major rivers. Well, we're taking out France, so I don't know how much forts along the Rhine would be. Danube, I don't know. I don't know. In the east, and I understand maybe some over here, but not the worst idea. And he's very popular. He's more of a holdover from the old Hindenburg government that Hitler inherits, with Konstantin von Rath. And I think we can. No, we don't have him as an option for foreign minister anymore. Is he? No. Okay. Well, so there is both a sort of a where is the one that would show me their ministers? Well, I don't know. But and he gets squeezed out by Ribbentrop for foreign minister. Ribbentrop had been the Nazi Party foreign minister, not the government foreign minister, and then the ambassador to London, and then comes into being foreign minister for the state. Von Rath leaves. Von Rath is put in charge of Bohemian Moravia. partially because of what is thought to be that he's again popular by with foreign governments. So he is seen as putting a maybe a good guy in Czechoslovakia, running over the ruling over the Czech lands. And at first, they're really trying to smooth in um, Czechoslovakia into the German Reich. But as time goes on and as the war is continuing, he is seen as being too weak on the Czechs, too forgiving, too not a they do want something of a you know very much of an iron fist and a velvet glove. They don't want to come in and brutalize the Czech people. They want to um, entice a lot of them into, in essence, becoming German. Learn German, become German, whatever. But von Roth is thought to be too soft on him. So Reinhard Heydrich is sent down to Bohemian Moravia to become von Roth's deputy, which he's not. He's now, in essence, the ruler. Von Roth stays the guy in charge of it, but he is no longer in charge of anything. He's just has the title basically, and uh, a lot of the people, a lot of which had already been operating the Sudeten SS elements, Konrad Henlein and what is it, Karl Hermann Frank. I think I got that name right. He is very much an SS guy. Um, he is the Iron Fist in Czechoslovakia, a Sudeten German, who of course speaks Czech and reads Czech. Um, Executed by the Czechs at the end of the war after the trial for a lot of war crimes. And so he is, he von Roth is sidelined again, just there as a figurehead, and so they're clamping down on it and really trying to increase production and yes, deal with disruptions, but it's not heavy resistance. At least that's my understand. And if I could advise, you should get some Reichskommissariats Plus. It allows you to have for every nation. You can customize German flag and name. It's a mod. Well, right now we are playing with the Black Ice mod. I don't know if that's a sub mod to Black Ice, but we may form some Reichskommissariats once we go east and get things set up. But yes. All right. Well, I guess this will end this episode, not the live stream. So thank you, everyone. I hope this was interesting history talk. Next episode, actual gaming.